What's up, Internet Land? Zacchaeus Prime, aka Zacchaeus Prime, here with another Transformers third-party review. And this is finally the culmination. The culmination? Yeah, something like that. Where we've got all of our train bots. And I'm just going to pull them all out so we can see them all side by side by side by side by side by side. Yeah. And because I was kept on telling everybody, oh yeah, I'll show off the train modes or the robot modes together and whatnot. So there is all the robots all hanging out together. Let's see if we can get a little bit of a better view on that. We can wiggle these guys out. You can just see them all as a team. And they're a good looking team. Here they are with the Transform Element Optimus Prime, so there you can see some scale. But in the last review, I left these in train mode, so let's get them into that, and I'll see you very shortly. Well, shortly for you. Alright, so for starters, here we have the Dark Knight. Dun, 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 dun. And he is going to form a foot of Radiatron, and we are going to take care of that right now. So, the first thing you want to do is you want to come along here. I'm going to use a different. And I'm not even going to use the metal at all. You're going to pop this off. That exposes your combiner port. And then this is actually going to pop in right up here. Like so. And then this one's kind of involved, so let's get into it. I'm going to take his wheels and flatten them down. I may have been a little preemptive in flattening down these ones because we'll get to that when we get to that. Alright, so let's start disconnecting panels. Because basically what you want to do is you want to crack this open a bit. And so essentially the function of this is you're going to fold it on these joints right here. And then the rest of it's just going to curl around the back. But there's a more involved process to this one. Open that up. Split these legs. Bring this panel up. I'm just going to focus on the one leg for now. And so if you just bring it up, on that joint, it's not going to clear this properly. You have to, let me see if I can get a way that you can see this. When you open this all up, there's this semicircle track in there. And so you need to get this leg to come around on that semicircle track. And then you're going to essentially close this up on top of that. Except that this guy needs to be bent. So Now this tab's going to fit into that slot there. And then this is going to come around this section here. And then this guy is supposed to plug back into here somehow, but it really doesn't. So really what's going to tie this all together is getting these trucks like hooked back up. And let's do the same to the other one while we've got it out and about. So open this all up. Open this all up. Yeah. Swing this all the way around. Come on. And bend that. And then reconnect this up. For whatever reason, and I don't know the reason, but this leg fights me more than the other leg does. I wish I knew how to circumvent that. Like, it definitely doesn't feel like it's lining up properly. I can feel its position, and it feels like it's almost in the right place. And of course, there's so many other like panels and crap in here that I can't see what's going on, which is not very beneficial to you, the viewer. You know, watching this video of me, well, it doesn't feel right, and that doesn't feel right. Unfortunately, I can't tell you what it feels like. I can just feel that that panel's not quite flush. But I'm going to try to proceed something snapped. I'm not sure what it was. And now it fits. So, I guess one of those steps is perform some sort of a miracle, and then... I'm sorry. That is the least helpful thing. But we're going to plug these back into each other. So this panel here folded up like that, and it's going to come back in and just stow right here. And then these are just going to fold around and then hook into each other. These dovetail connections. There's that one on the top and that one on the bottom. And then last but not least, I am going to fully extend this ratchet joint. Because that's just going to make this whole thing just so much easier to pose and mess with. Trust me. Alright, these didn't get tabbed together properly. I'll do that real quick. Boom and boom. Fold them up. Alrighty. Oh yes, and last but not least, this is a right leg, so we'll put this on the right side. There's a tab here and a slot here, and then that's going to correspond with this slot here. Focus on that. this slot here and that tab here. Alrighty, there is le foot. Incidentally, Cool Peak, if I recall correctly, is much easier, even though it's essentially the same process. It's actually much easier. So we're going to do the same thing with these to flip those in. As I recall, don't need to do as much mumbo jumbo with this one. These are going to take and fold down on top of each other to go into their position here. We're going to disconnect these. Not disconnect them fully. Jeez. It's not a biggie, it's just on a little ball joint. And I'm going to snap that back on. Yeah. So these ones, you don't need to do any like weird stuff with that. You just bring this up. And then this comes down and that comes up. And now you're going to fold these around so that this tab here plugs into that slot there. Like so. Let me get this proper. Properly tabbed so that this tab right here plugs in. Oh, this reminds me, I forgot a teensy weensy little step on the last one. Let me bring it up real quick. So you've got these hinges right here. That's an upper hinge and that's a lower hinge. So this side is going to fold up. Actually, I don't know if that happens. It doesn't look any better when it does that. Never mind. My bad. So anyhow, fold these flat. You do have this little panel here. You disconnect it from there, and then that will plug in. Down here? No, it'll plug in. Right here. Oh, you didn't see that at all. Alright, this part folds down and there's a tab here that goes into this slot. Ish. And then this will plug into this little spot here. Like so. Now we're going to come around, peg this tab into that slot, and peg the same tab into the same slot on the other side. Bring this down on top of that. And again, extend the rocker and plug in this guy right here. And that makes leg numero dos. Now for iron fist, or rather I should say iron pants. We're going to start off so basically what we're going to do is we're going to turn him right back to how he was when he came out of the packaging. So first thing we're going to do is buckle these guys. Bring those out. We're going to disconnect these panels here, these panels here. Disconnect this panel here. And then start to wiggle this all out. Now, one of the things we need to pay attention to is, let's get these tucked away. And unfortunately, so these pegs are asymmetrical. So these guys here come in really easily. But these ones here are a little bit harder to squeeze past those pegs. But you want to get these down so that you've got them kind of, you know, like combined with each other. Because if you try and make them so that, you know, one side is all in and the other side is all out, it actually doesn't fit very well. So you really do need to like weave them together and tuck them all up on each other. So we're going to take this down, and it's going to, these tabs are going to plug into slots in there. And then you're going to bring out these tabs from inside this armor, and you're gonna see that they will tuck into little slots on that leg joint. And this is going to really just help keep everything together. A surprising amount of the posability of the figure comes off of those pegs. So, and then this side is the back, and I looked at this tab up here because you've got this big part here is facing towards the front, and then it gets skinny. You're going to put the thing in and pull it back to plug it in, and then it's going to have little parts that clamp on the back side here. So now to do these, what you want to do is unpeg these parts here, bring them all the way around. Squeeze these together, disconnect those. You want to take this part here, turn this to the side, turn this to the side, flip this out, continue this to flip. Oh yeah, pull in this little tiny panel here. This to flip in, and then bring this around to come on top of that. And then you want to crank this peg out a little bit. And now basically what's going to happen is you're going to bring this up on this double joint, and then this part here is going to slide underneath that one. Like so. Alright. So then these guys here, you're going to bring out these big ass panel pegs here. And then this is going to come around. These four little orange pegs are going to plug back into the holes where they were before. This tab is going to kind of hang out in this slot here. Nope, actually this tab is going to hang out in that slot. And then this tab is going to peg into that slot there in the thigh. Like that. And then we're going to do the same with this other one that got turned around a little bit. This is coming out, this is going in basically the same panel configuration. So when you want to flip it around this way for robot mode, flip it around this way for train mode and for combined mode. So bring out this panel right here, this massive tab, and that's going to plug in plug in and plug in. This is going to flip around, and we're going to bring that down on the outside. And then these guys are going to plug in, and this tab is going to go right into this slot here on both sides. And now we're going to do the same for the other side. So unpeg this, unpeg that, unpeg these, unpeg this and that, bring this out-ish, disconnect these guys, bring all of this. Come on, what's stopping me? Down. Make sure these pegs plug in, and then bring out these tabs right here. And rotate this. Ooh, that little panel came off. It's weird. Bring this out one notch, because that'll just make everything a little bit easier. So disconnect this, disconnect this, bring these out. Bring those out. Dance these guys around each other, flip that little panel in, bring it back. Bring this around. That just tucks in there so nicely. That peg out, bring that peg out, and then just plug these right back into each other. Lining everything up, of course. Alright, and there's that. Now we have, let me bring this up just a little bit. Now we have still quite a bit of a mess. So, one step at a time, we're working on this. So you're going to disconnect this guy from here, and it's going to come around on this joint. You want to take these guys and bring them down, and these are like little double, these little eccentric axles they have. Bring it down. So now this guy is going to plug into that slot right there. That'll help keep that in place. Do the same with the other side. pop that out, bring this up and around. Bring these down on those eccentric axles. So now what you want to do is you want to plug these guys back into each other. This is what you did for putting it into robot mode. Is plug these panels into each other. So if you're coming out of robot mode, your process is going to be a little bit, your process is going to be a little bit different. But unfortunately, I don't have the means to show you every mode from every other mode, so we're just going to have to dude, come on, why are you fighting me today? There we go. And then these are just going to kind of come out and drop down. And now you have skirt armors on one side. You're going to do the same with that on this side here. Hopefully you can see it better than I can because the camera is at a slightly lower angle than I'm looking at with my eye holes. And then come on. There we go. Let's have these together. There we go. Bring this down. And now we have two sets of skirt armors. So now these guys are going to come up and around. Basically, you're going to do the same thing that they were just in. Except that now you're basically turning these around so that you can plug them in. These two big tabs right here, you got these pegs here and here. Ugh, there's so much stuff in the way. These tabs right here and here are going to plug into their respective slots, holes. They just apparently aren't going to do it very well. Is that the deal today, guys? Is that the deal? What on earth is the problem today? Come on. Oh. Oh, why you fighting me? Just gonna have to make do with where it's at. Just gonna have to deal with it as it lies. So, for these panels here, you're gonna flip them around, and they are going to tab into these sections here, this slot and that tab. And then these are going to come around and peg into these guys here. And it is, oh my god, obnoxious with how these panels properly plugged in. What's the big fight? Alright, apparently they just needed some Hulk squish on them. Alright, so these little armatures are going to come around to the front. You're going to plug this in on this side. There's a peg that goes in. That's going to come in, and then this is going to plug in here on the back. And I'm not going to plug the one in the front on yet. We're going to do the same for this side here. Plug that in. Make sure these come around. This guy likes to always come off. And so this one is going to plug in on top of that one. And that's going to help keep everything kind of squozen together. Is it going to do a very great job? Maybe. Maybe not. But it's going to look like it does a good job. And then last but not least, you want to take these little panels here. Bring them up. And that's going to give them a little bit of a svelte looking wastial section to them. Boom, pants. Wow, that took almost 19 minutes. With practice that would come faster, but I am not doing this 20 times over just to get enough practice. That's a problem. Anyone wanted to see how the inside of a transformer worked? This be your big chance, buddy. I'm going to skip ahead forward a little bit. We'll get to the next spot, but I got to take care of this real quick. Alrighty. Alright, so here we go. Let's hopefully this one doesn't take as long as the last one. You want to first go in and clear up these panels in this middle section right here. These are going to fold up, kind of like what they do into his robot mode. Actually, exactly like they do into his robot mode. these are going to disconnect. Because these whole legs are going to come apart. So the nose is going to need to collapse kind of how it into the configuration that it is in robot mode, but we're not actually transforming it into robot mode, and I do believe that it is easier to get to this mode from train mode. So we're going to bring these out, bring that out. We are going to want to disconnect and remove these panels here, because we're going to take this guy here and flip that in. These guys here are going to come out. And importantly, these big gray tabs are going to swing out from inside the train. Alright, anyhow, this head's going to come out, and now we're going to start to wiggle these guys back into place. And you want to make sure that this connection for the head, see how it gets real skinny right at this point? That's going to fit into this little slot that you can see the halves of the slot in the silver roof. So we're just going to plug one of these. Actually, before I get too much farther, I'm going to get these things out of the way. We're going to just bring this up like that. That'll help get these conveniently out of the way. So we're going to bring this up and plug it back into place. And then we're going to do the same with this one. Bring it back into place. And just position it around that head neck piece. Alrighty. Everything looks great so far. We do want to open up these panels right here. They're going to help keep everything together. And we want to open up these panels right here. Those will help keep everything together. And now what's going to happen is we're going to fold these out. This leg is going to come out a little bit and then rotate . 90 degrees so that this knee joint can, then you can rotate that on the knee joint and bring this back in. Now what's going to happen is let me get the right tool out. Kind of push this guy in. So now this guy's going to come in and slide into that slot and then lock it into place. And then this guy is going to make it so this doesn't want to come forward and backwards. Why can I how I wanted this to plug in. These are going to fold up, and these are going to fold out. And we're just going to plug this guy, I believe, comes back to where it was. Now this we're going to flip out, and we're going to flip out this big metal tab right here. And this is kind of a pain in the ass to flip out. And then these little guys here are going to come out. And these little guys here we're going to bring out, but only part way. This we want to have come back in so that this is just exposed by itself. Alright, now let's go back and take care of this other leg here, because we've already seen this done once before, so we can just do it again real quick. Bring this out, bring this around at the knee joint. Make sure that this dude is tucked in. Boom. Plug that into place. Bring the head around, close that up. Bring these pieces around. Bring out this little thing. These are going to fold in on the back. I'm going to fold these in. Now we bring out the chest plate here, and we're just going to pop these little doohickeys out. Now there's a magnet on here that keeps this magnetically attached. I don't know exactly why, because it doesn't really serve any useful function. There are tabs that are holding this in place, and that is what you are relying on. You want to take this little track section here, thread that into this guy here so that that's in place, and then that's going to line up your tabs with your slots. At least it's supposed to. I did forget to do this guy here and fold this up here. And then that's basically good right there. We're going to take these wings, it doesn't matter which one goes where, we're going to plug it into these screw holes. And that is the next section of Radiatron. Alrighty, two more and then we can combine this. So what we're going to do with this guy here is we're going to grab this and just yank this straight out. Oops, didn't move this over. I am going to disconnect this guy here, and by the way, this will come around and cover up that gap, which is nice. Disconnect this guy here, and then I'm going to push in this panel right here. Flip that all the way around. Now this is kind of a clever little assortment here. You've got, by the way, the back of the hand is die cast. That's swanky. So you've got these three little parts here. This one's on a spring. This one is not. So you're going to take this and you're going to bring this guy up and bring this in as far as it'll go. And then you'll squeeze this as it comes in. And you want to hook it so that the sides of this are going to hook across here. So you want to squeeze it as it comes in. And then watch it as it comes all the way through. Because once it's through, you want to expand it all the way and then bring this little bit on the end around to plug in between those panels. Let me see if I can bring this in a position where I can do it with my dominant hand without obscuring the camera. So bring that around, and then that just closes that up, and now this thing is just locked tight. It will not come out. So now we're going to take this, plug this back in, plug these back into those tabs. Actually, we're not quite done with this yet, because now we want to take and pull up on these guys right here. Bring that up and around. Now we want to plug this in. And remember that we are making a right arm, so we want to get this panel ready to be disconnected. And this panel, push that in, disconnect that, bring this guy up and around. We're going to fully separate the legs, so you will need to untab this this block here, this wheel block. If I was an actual railroader, I'd know what this is actually called. If it's called like the trucks, or if it's called like the wheel block, or if it's called, I don't even know. But I'm not a railroader. I'm not that kind of engineer. Alright, so we're going to separate this all the way out. And what we're going to do with this is we're going to I'm going to bring out this toe first. Fold in these little guys here. This is going to come out. That's going to come out. And now what is essentially going to happen is this leg is going to fold around so that you're bringing this straight up into the body. And you'll know you're doing it right when. So essentially what's going to happen is, oh wait, I forgot, you do need to bend this knee 90 degrees. So what's going to happen is, you can see this big gap down here where my fingers are pointing to. There's this tab right here, and that tab is going to lock it all into place. So you want to bring this in like so, and then push on this tab, and it'll just flip in quite nicely. Lock it all into place. You want to take this half of the wheel block here. Oh, I missed a step. Let's undo this real quick. Before you go hog wild, you want to fold this guy in. Put that panel into place. There it is from the inside. And then this guy is going to come around with the wheels facing in so that they get hidden up. This guy is going to come around and close that so you hide it entirely. And then for this section here, you're going to bring this out and around, unfold this panel here, bring that down, and then this is going to fold in right here and tab into that. And that is one leg all done. Now we're going to do all the same stuff to the other side. So bring this out, bring this out. Bring the foot out. Bring the leg out, fold this panel in, bend the knee 90 degrees, fold it back in on itself, push this tab in, bring that up and in, fold up this little skirt pieces here. There we go. Bring that out. And then fold this all back in, bring this out and around, and plug that in, fold this out. And now we're just going to tab this whole sucker back. Well, actually, we're not going to tab it together. So if we tab it together, we can't actually put it onto the arm. Which is facing the wrong way. There you go. There's an arm all done. Alright. And our last guy for today is going to work exactly like the last one. So, pull that out. Fold this in. Bring these panels up. Fold those in like so. Fold those in like so. Split the wheel segments. Yeah. Split the legs. Let me take care of this real quick before I get too much farther, before I get too far ahead of myself. Push this panel in. Bring out that little guy right there. And thread it through there. Lock that into place. Bring this. Oh, I've unpegged more than I planned on. So remember how I was saying that I was having an issue with this little tab plugging in together? Well, that gets hidden, so I'm not even worried about that. Bring this up. And tab this into place. All right. Now we're going to do this process here. Bring that out. Bring that out. Bring that out. Fold that guy in, and then bring this all back into place. Put this tab in. Put this panel in. Fold out and in. Bring the toe out, fold this back in. Make sure everything lines up properly. And then tab that into place, open this up, fold that down. That's one leg all done. Just gets a little repetitive for having to do not twice because you've got two legs. No, you've got two legs on two different bots, so you have to do this entire process 4 times, and it's just like, ooh, can we do something else, please? I'm bored. As I'm sure is everyone watching this video right now. Assuming anybody's actually watching this section and you haven't skipped forward. So I can say probably anything I want right now. And nobody but the YouTube algorithm will know. The YouTube algorithm never gets bored, never gets tired. It automatically converts all of my speech into text, and then reads the text, and knows if I said something naughty, like fuck. Plug that in, extend this out, bring that in, and then this is also backwards, so rotate that around. And now we've got another arm all done. Boom. Alright, so now let's focus on combination, and this one's going to get a little bit dicey because I am not set up for the camera space right now, so we're just going to focus on each connection point. So, for these guys, what we're going to do is we need to crack this part open right here. We're going to bring in our pants. And you're going to tuck this in so that this big old metal peg is going to fit into that and lock into place. So fit that in. And then slide it into place. And then this is going to lock in. And then we're going to do the same with the other leg. Slide that open. Yep. Lock that into place. Squeeze this in. Reconnect the part that fell off. I have decided that I am going to need to put this on the bigger tripod. I also kind of wish I had better lights. Alright. I almost feel like I should have done this one earlier because this one's got a critical connection and it's a little complicated. I'm not exactly going to have good lighting for this, so we're going to turn this guy around. I'm actually going to open these back up. If I can get them back open without popping anything off. Which is not usually the case, so bear with me in case something pops off. Yeah, something popped off. Bring my lights in closer so we can get a better look at it. Alright, so what we've got here is the slots we're looking at here are these slots right here. And let's tilt this down. These slots right here. This big slot here. And then these little tabs right back here. And that is going to line up with these three tabs right here, and then these ones are going to come in on the back. So we're going to plug that in. Slide it back. Drop the chest plate. And then what we'll need to do is get these tabs down and into place. There's one. I'm just not going to worry about that one. Plug these guys back into each other. And plug this back onto itself. Alright, with our work lights up, we're going to raise this up again. So for the arm connections, the critical thing to look at is these two ears on the top and bottom of this peg. Now it is important that these be on the top and bottom when you're going into any other mode except for the combined mode. But those are going to line up if I can even get it shown. Those are going to line up with holes on the inside of this. So you're going to point his arm all the way forward. Let's turn this one, maybe we can see a little bit of it. And we are just going to sandwich that in between those two halves of that. We'll rotate that down and give it a good squeeze. And then we're going to do the exact same thing for the other side. Now we have Radiatron complete. Let me move the camera and we'll get this all squared away. Alright, not the most perfect of solutions, but it's better than nothing. A lot of the inside of my house is kind of like a massive cave because I keep my toys protected from the sunlight when I can. So especially the space where I do my reviews is rather dark. And those two little LED lights just weren't enough to cut it for this. So here is Radiatron all completed up, and I really feel like this looks impressive. It just has just a good look to it. Let's see if I can get it to stand over. It's straighter. There he's standing about as straight as he can. It's a very, very large figure. There he is from the front. There he is from the back. Overall, you can see he's a very clean figure. This table that I put out here is not terribly level, because it's standing on the ground and my ground is not terribly level, but on a level surface I don't really have much trouble getting them to stand correctly. In fact, even on a non-level surface I don't really have much trouble getting them to stand correctly, though of course if he's, you know, standing on a surface like that and then you turn around so that he's essentially standing on a surface like this, of course you're going to need to readjust his joints. And I could do that, but the only drawback that I see for any large combiner, any large figure, is that they're often not a lot of fun to pose. This guy's no exception. He's just big and bulky, and just you gotta wrestle with him. But let's get into his posability. So his head is on a ball joint. By the way, the face sculpt on this, let me get in close. The face sculpt on this is just fantastic. Those bright chrome blue eyes. The face looks really good. Again, I'm not an expert on the Japanese comic stuff or cartoon stuff, so I can't tell you right offhand whether or not this is the most accurate interpretation of Raiden's face, but I can tell you that it has a real super robot appeal to it. I think it's pretty nice. But anyhow, his head is on a ball joint, looks up and down, tilts side to side a little bit, rotates for the full 360. His arms are on. It's interesting. The like outward posability of his arms is entirely on those little black armatures that we're doing with the legs of these guys. And they'll go out, and they'll go around. You may want to move these wings around. Well, I'm losing containment on this. So this peg system is coming undone a little bit, which is another issue that I tend to have with big combiners, is that the forces involved in posing them around tends to disconnect a lot of their combination mechanisms. I had a big problem with this on my Toy World Constructor, where it was to the point where I'd have to basically put his arm in the position I wanted and then attach it, because trying to move his arm while it's attached is very difficult. And while it can be done, there's no need to do something the hard way if you don't have to. So anyhow, yeah, this arm will come up and around. It's got basically a bicep swivel here, single joint of elbow for 9 degrees of bend. Nice little detail that comes out back here. He does have like a forearm pivot, though I don't know that I would necessarily use that much. His hands are basically the Zeta Toys standard, which means that you've got, you know, hinge mechanisms plus swivel mechanisms to make the thumb go all around. 3, 4, 5, 6 joints of posability in the thumb. 1, 2, 3, 4 joints of posability in each finger, so you can get them splayed out. You can get them together. You can do the Falcon salute. You can do just a bunch of stuff. Wrist goes in and out and rotates just fine. His waist swivels well. Let me get this down so that we can see his waist. Waist is basically unimpeded. You've got skirt armors on the front, side, and back. Leg is on really stiff. Allows it to go that far forward. That far back. I lost that part again. goes out for a full Van Damme, or in light of the latest Thor Love and Thunder trailer, the full Thor. I'm going to put him in more of an A stance again. Guys. His knee is going to bend for 90 degrees of bend. Ankle goes side to side, and not really any forward and back, though there is this ab crunch joint. Oh, let me see if I can hold this out straight in front of me, which is a very heavy figure. Holding this figure is like lifting weights, which, if any of you have ever seen me, that's not my forte. My noodly arms and all that. Anyhow, he does have this joint that you could unpeg to unlock a... Oh, I left all my tools back in the house. To do the ab crunch. Hold on a second. You need to stand there for a moment, like you're taking a leak. Tools. So you can unhook that little tab. Oh, come on. Which will allow this to tilt forward. But honestly, it wasn't a very strong joint in robot mode, and I absolutely don't trust it in the combined mode. It's just, that doesn't count in my book. But it is a good posability figure. It is fairly stable. The joints are nice and tight. You can move this wings up a little bit if you want to. It's just like all tall figures, it is kind of a chore in its own right to pose and whatnot. Yeah, that just untabbing that one tab on the leg made this figure almost completely unmanageable, just because that ankle didn't hold it. So that's not a posability joint. We both learned this just now. He does come with one basic accessory, which is his massive freaking gun. And that's got your large Masterpiece style peg in the handle. And you're just going to take that, plug that into his hand. Oh, let's put his thumb in the proper position first. Plug that into his hand. Curl the fingers around. And there he is with his gun, which is, I mean, like I've mentioned before, it's a pretty good looking gun. Got a little bit of orange paint back here, a little bit of silver paint up at the front. Well, not silver paint as so much as gray paint. And yeah, it looks really good. He holds it really well. All in all, this figure, even as a combiner, it's really solid. It's just huge and really solid. So let me take a moment and put him into a swanky pose, and then we'll do a little bit of size comparisons. I don't have a whole lot of really big figures, but I've got a few. So we will size him up with those. So, alright, so there he is. Not quite like stock still standing there, but he is freestanding. He's not resting up against the wall. In fact, my only real concern with this figure at the moment is that his feet aren't on a no-slip surface, so... But it's stable. I would trust this to stand here just as long as it needed to. So let's do a little bit of size comparisons. First and foremost, since I've been comparing it with the Transform Element Optimus Prime, let's bring that in here. Just so you can see, he is easily twice as large. There's that friction. He's easily twice as large as a Masterpiece Optimus Prime figure. And dang, that's a huge figure. Here it is with the Fans Toys God Ginrai set. The Jinbao oversized Throttlebot combiner. Who does not like how smooth this table is. The Zeta Toys Unicron. And last but not least, the Masterpiece Star Saber with the KFC toy Simba. Leave me a comment, by the way, if you want me to review that. I'm actually kind of thinking about it. But yeah, leave a comment if you want to see a review of that. And that's about all that I've got for this figure. All in all, I think it's a really good figure. I think that it looks great. The paint applications are great. The proportions are wonderful. The sculpt is really nice. It doesn't have like anything in the way of kibble almost. Like the most kibbly thing you could argue on this is these little flaps here, which don't get in the way of anything. They don't look obnoxious at all. It's a really beautiful combiner. Like all combiners, it is absolutely obnoxious in the robot mode, so it's going to make a fantastic display piece. Put it together, put it on your shelf, enjoy the way it looks. I would not recommend taking it down a whole lot to play around with it and, you know, do stuff. But I mean, if that's what you're in here to get, that's absolutely where I would go. I know that Takara is coming out with their set as well, and actually just while I was in the middle of reviewing this, because I've reviewed this in several sections over several days, this combined figure. While I was in the middle of reviewing this, I just watched a Japanese language review for the first MPG, their version of the core robot there, and yeah, I don't like the way it looks. They've integrated these wings into it, but they don't look as good as they do on the show or as they do here. They made it because it's a licensed bullet train, like it had to be a certain length and whatnot, and so it's about twice as long as this figure, but it makes a robot mode that's like about maybe 2/3 the height of that one, and so there's a lot of compressing that goes in, and you have a bunch of panels all over the place, and panels being stored in weird places, and I don't really like the way it looks, to be honest. But that's me. If there's anybody out there who thinks that, you know, buying Takara's version of this guy for $250 for a guy this big versus buying the Moon Studios version of this guy for $100 and it's this big, if anyone thinks that's the better deal, I'd love to hear from you, to see, you know, gauge contrasting views and whatnot. But anyhow, all in all, that's all I've got for you. Thanks everybody for watching. I know this was a long one, but you know, it kind of have to have a long review for a big old combined piece. So, but thanks everyone for watching. You guys are fantastic. Everybody stay good to each other, and I'll see you next time.